Welcome back. You're watching Morning Express. On this part of the show, we talk about environmental conservation. Now, a few weeks ago, I did catch up with a local startup, Chemolex, that has been putting in efforts to ensure that they are cleaning up the Nairobi River, and the kind of trash they have to deal with is astounding. So we did catch up with them, find out the kind of impact that is having on local communities and some of the things and options that we all have in ensuring that we are part of the solution rather than the problem. So let's take a look at that before we get into the whole discussion on environmental conservation. Who needs a solid waste disposal system when you have the Nairobi River snaking its way through the city? The so-called river has over the years been turned into the city's major sewerage system that sluggishly washes away all kinds of garbage, flowing from the northwest to the southeast with toxins that will eventually be poured into the Indian Ocean. Massive failure by the city authorities to curb dumping of waste in the river has turned it into a breeding ground for all manner of disease-causing bacteria such as E. coli. Expert reports also indicate the levels of harmful metals in the water body are far above what the World Health Organization has determined as safe, particularly for a water body so close to human settlement. Health risks aside, the river, if you can still call it that, is an eyesore and stinks to high heaven. Did you know that the largest percentage of trash in the Nairobi River consists of diapers, sanitary towels, human refuse and plastics? When it comes to handling trash, out of sight, out of mind does not work. Today, we focus on a startup that is going against all odds to ensure that they are cleaning up the river, protecting the communities here, and ensuring that they are able to make a livelihood out of the trash right here. It is the kind of pollution that needs sustainable solutions, far from the cleanup exercises that barely scratch the surface. Chemolex is a startup that is taking up the Herculean task of taking the trash out of the river. Not only are they taking the garbage out, to make the river cleaner and safer, they are aiming at sustainable ways of keeping this trash out of the neighborhoods by recycling. Right, and that's just an excerpt of a feature we showed yesterday on the situation with the Nairobi River, and hopefully things take a turn to the better, and we find more sustainable solutions to the garbage that is drowning some parts of the city. Now, to discuss more on environmental conservation and some of the sustainable ways we can put into play to ensure our environments are clean is Daniel Wanjuki, who's the CEO of EcoSave Africa. Welcome to the show, Mr. Wanjuki.
Thank you.
Now, let's start off with the situation. You've seen that excerpt. What do you make of how we are doing and how we're faring on in terms of taking care of our environments?
Thank you. As a country, we've made several attempts at making amends to environmental pollution, and much of it has ended up at those occasions where we wear nice t-shirts, go to the river, do some cleanup, and at the end of that day, we forget about it. But environmental pollution is a continuous thing. It happens every day. And so any solution meant to help solve that problem must be a daily thing. And that's why we normally recommend that we don't do it for the occasion, for the camera, but instead we do it for the commercial interest that we could get from it.
Okay.
The startup that is doing something on the Nairobi River may succeed because they get something out of it, that commercialization of waste management, and so they will always go to the river every day, get whatever they can extract from that river, and they deliver it either to a person who can recycle that waste or even make products out of it. And so I would say this is the best approach to waste management in the river cleanup process.
In the river, yes. Go ahead.
However, we have come a long way doing this, but because of lack of support from the government and the several organizations that are meant to help in this process, such organizations may not get enough reward from the process of cleaning the river. And so the government should actually look at rewarding them either by improving on their PPEs, getting them equipment that can be able to dredge in the river, and also preventing more pollution to the river, and instead provide traps that can hold that waste before it gets to the river.
Yes. Now, speaking of more sustainable solutions, let us start off from the source of garbage. First of all, we have our households. We have the companies and the cartels also that are part of the problem in terms of waste management. And at the same time, we have companies that are not really paying keen attention to where the garbage ends up. Let's talk about the diapers that are littering the Nairobi River. Some of the chemicals are being dumped directly into the river after whatever production happens at the manufacturing levels of various companies and factories. So how can we as a people deal with it before it becomes a problem to the environment? Because we're just dumping it into the river or wherever else, and it's becoming a problem for other people.
Thank you. The truth is that waste should never get to the river.
Yes. In the first place.
The waste should not end up in the river. But we have a poor way of managing solid waste. It's not just diapers, women toys, and we also have the mask. Now that everybody has to take a mask out every day.
Yes.
And we have several disposable masks that are doing the rounds. All this is ending up in the river, but it should not have gotten there, because every estate, every residential setup or commercial has a place for putting the garbage, and this garbage gets up to be collected by a person who does it before it fills the garbage bin and gets into a proper waste management process that ensures that that waste does not come back to us.
Yeah.
Because for people to consider the river as a good conduit for waste and get away with it, it seems like the government or the organizations that are meant to ensure that does not happen have actually dropped the guard.
Yeah.
And so we would request that organizations that are meant to prevent that from happening up their game, ensure that they earn their income by actually doing what they are supposed to do. We find that garbage collectors meant to do clean up within the CBD end up not doing it because of so many other challenges that they are facing. Luckily, we have NMS, which has a big focus on cleanup, and so we're hoping that they are going to put the act together now that they are in full control and give us a clean river. And this is the best gift that government or the county government can give to Nairobians.
Okay. And if you haven't watched the whole feature, that company, Chemolex, actually uses that trash and turns it into bricks that are used to make different types of things that could actually be used to pave pathways and pavements. Now, for you, you are from EcoSave Africa. Have you had a way, do you have a way of cleaning up the environment that is sustainable as opposed to the photo ops that we see every now and then?
Thank you, Trix. I hold a portfolio which is the public-private partnership, shared to the public-private partnership in waste management in Nairobi, in Kenya. This is an organization that is domiciled at NEMA. I also run a company that has an input in the prevention operation in the rivers.
Yes. And
we have really helped in arresting what is called sewage from getting to the river.
Okay.
Because for diapers and sanitators to end up in the river, it means that there's an nexus between the sewerage system and the river. And this happens when our sewerage trunking, the trunking from all those Kirereshwa and Kilimani, when they block somewhere near Mudhurwa, they pour out their content, and that content ends up in the river. We have, in the past, assisted in the cleanup of Nairobi River, that section of the river from Shiromo University campus, going through the Museum Hill, through Globe Cinema, and I'm very happy that, okay, that's one of the output. We were able to clean up that section of the river when the Michoki Park was being inaugurated.
Yes.
And we actually achieved an odorless river that Nairobians can now be able to enjoy by preventing that smell that actually is generated by that river because of decomposing material. We have done research in wastewater management, and we have a product which we have put in the market called EcoTreat, which has helped in the reduction of smell. When you get smell out of waste, people actually give it a different approach. You are able to handle it.
I see.
You are able to actually even, you can actually package whatever it is, including that wastewater, and use it for greening. And so that's our input as EcoServe Africa. I also have a company, an organization called Samawati Green Ecologist. We are actually promoting the trapping of garbage or solid material before it enters into the river using nets similar to what we call the fishing net. We're placing them along the river channels, mostly stormwater drains, and we stop that garbage, the diapers, the plastic bottles, packaging material that are still being produced to package food and stuff from getting into the river. And this is the best model for even organizations like the startup we have seen, because they will be able to capture. Whenever it rains, there's a lot of garbage that is actually held in those nets, and instead of them going to the river to do the cleaning, they will actually arrest the products,
they basically fish materials. It out.
Before it gets to the river. That is one of the best approaches, because it's actually tricky when you go to the river, wade into the river, because there could even be other risks, including, we've seen other equipment being dumped into the river, and they could be having cutting
needles and what
needles and stuff. And I've been mentoring one of the organizations that is cleaning the river, the organization called Combo Green. And one of the challenges we have is getting PPE, gumboots, gloves that they can be able to use when they're going to the river. But when you trap the plastic before it gets to the river, it is safer to handle it, because you actually just need to wait and get a commercial benefit from it.
Okay, so you've talked about the challenges, but at the same time, you've talked about EcoTreat that gets rid of the smell, so it's easier to handle, and at the same time, the nets that will trap them so that people are not wading through the dirty waters, literally putting their lives in danger in terms of diseases and perhaps hazard things that could cut them. But at the same time, once it comes out, there's a missing link often. When you look at some companies, they've figured out how to turn it into something else that can make money. As you said, that is an incentive that would help people be more interested in cleaning up the river and other dirty places. So how are you contributing to cleaning up the environment post fishing out trash from rivers?
Thank you. We have actually set up groups in Nairobi that these are youth groups at ward level, about 85 groups that actually help in clean up of the environment. Although they do it in once in a month or twice, there is working closely with NEMA. We've been trying to give waste a commercial value, such that youths that collect the waste don't have to just dump it off the channel and when it rains, it gets back. So you give it a value such that garbage collectors who are able to actually sort waste and package it for recycling, get it in a clean manner. We're also giving the organizations, groups that are able to access such waste, technology that they can be able to actually convert into, like you say, the cabros, the posts. So the issue has been that once they've done this, there's no marketing platform for recyclable products. And so they are forced to go compete with commercially available concrete material. And our approach, and we've tried to talk to NEMA, we've tried to improve on the government in different organizations to actually give the green economy, that is the recycling, the recovery, the avoidance of waste into the environment, a commercial value that one does. It is interesting that once you recover this waste, when they go to sell the waste, they're asked to pay VAT on that. Yet the value added into that shouldn't be actually the benefit to the government. It's actually the environment that is benefiting. When you take away the waste and you recover it, that benefit should actually, the government should actually pay them something for recovering that volume. If you can prove that you have actually recovered 10 tons of plastic, the government should actually incentivize them by giving them tax breaks, issues like relief from paying other taxes, so that it becomes commercially viable. Because the reason for saying this is because we have had so many organizations come on board, learn the show for a few years or months, but they end up giving up because of the challenges of learning.
We're going to listen to the President now read off the vote and discuss the gravity of this moment.
On this vote, the yeas are 7, the nays are 92. The objection is not sustained. The Secretary will notify the House of the action of the Senate, informing that body that the Senate is now ready to proceed to joint session with further counting of the electoral vote for President and Vice President. Majority Leader.
Mr. President.
At the same time, we have a problem with the fact that we shall be the part of those who actually suffer the consequences of these changes. We won't be spared, even though we're not one of the largest contributors. So what can we be doing to ensure climate change is not, that we make some form of contribution to the stopping climate change and global warming?
Thank you. Interesting, like you say, climate change may sound very far. We normally hear that cities that are near the ocean will become inundated area or flooded, or most of the cities will actually be part of the ocean. We also hear that ice caps are going to melt, and so there will be more volume of water in those countries where they have ice. But what we've seen in the last few months is that our lakes here in Kenya, who are very far away from the...
submerging entire villages.
Exactly. And there's a modeling that has been done that shows that much of the impacts of climate change will actually be experienced in Africa.
Yes. And
we may not have the droughts actually that we anticipate, but we may actually be having floods. And we have seen what has happened in Lake Baringo, Lake Naivasha, and Nakuru. And this is just a warning. According to scientists, we are told that by 2035, the changes into the environment will be so much that we may not be able to go back to what we know as normal. And this may sound like it's very far, but we're actually experiencing it now. If you look at the last few months, when we are expecting to have short rains, we didn't get rains. This projection that we are going to have droughts this year. But our contribution to world climate change as Kenya is boosted by our technology. I miss out off, but you saw me coming in with an award we were given by the Minister of Water, recognizing our technology that has reduced the generation of methane gas from all commercial farming, from municipal wastewater treatment, and this actually has a global impact. Ecotrade, the product we're talking about from Eco South Africa, has actually been identified as one of the products that would have a lot of impact on waste management, on climate change, and it would also give us a starting point. Although we are not generating petroleum-based emissions, every household in Kenya and the world over generates methane gas through the poor breakdown of waste using the system we have adopted in the past, where we actually adopt anaerobic waste management. This anaerobic system generates methane gas that actually has contributed largely to global warming, especially because methane gas itself is not consumed by plants or animals. So by preventing its generation, Kenya, through EcoSave Africa, and this actually has been recognized even with world organization from like the UN, even the US buying from us, has given us that impact that can change the way future generations are going to handle waste, and also reduce the impact of climate change.
All right, and the reduction of the production of methane gas from the household levels, and of course on a larger scale. Now, far from that, digital disruption is a whole thing that can be, and in many ways is being integrated into dealing with climate change and ensuring that our environment is clean. What are some of the innovative ways that you have seen, or how would you encourage young people to be a part of this and engage by using technology and internet platforms to ensure that they are being part of the solution as opposed to just sitting on the fence?
Thank you. Our youth have a good opportunity now. Okay, we've learned from COVID that actually you don't have to drive to the office.
Yes.
Get yourself a seat and you work and go home at the end of the day. That you can actually do, you can work remotely, avoid the burning of fuel to access your office. We have also noticed that organizations like you've seen, the startups trying to impact on waste that is already in the river, and they're trying to recover it and converting it into products that actually replace the use of cement. Cement actually is one of the biggest polluters because a lot of, almost a third of world carbon is generated through cement making.
Production,
both through energy consumption and even the burning, the heating of the logs to make them into cement releases a lot of carbon dioxide. And that is part of what has caused the global warming debacle. But youths can actually influence the change of use of products. Like we don't need to do concrete houses. They could invest in what we are calling 3D printing, where our building is printed from plastic. And this reduces the impact of building in the environment. We have also noticed that a government recently adopted our company through what is called the incubation. Kenya National Climate Change Innovation Center has actually adopted organizations like EcoSave Africa and given them what's called mentorship to help them upscale and grow into this space by providing products that are going to reduce environmental pollution. This is happening by improving agriculture, improving products like we've talked about, and this are going to be channeled through the youth formation, because youths have more interest in the future than the older generation that was actually nursed into using a lot of petroleum. But now youths can actually be able to adopt greener technologies in agriculture, adopt better technology that reduce the pollution that is coming from our poor waste management process. I would at this point also point that use of anaerobic systems, our breeding technology should actually be adapted that we have completely do away with anaerobic systems. They were not part of nature. Nature has not created anaerobic systems, other than in swamps, where we could have some form of anaerobic digestion because of the depth. There's nowhere else where nature recommends or uses anaerobic systems, and so we should not use them in our buildings. I'm talking about what we call biodigesters, our old septic tanks that end up not having the correct treatment of waste, and instead they generate methane gas into the environment. We should not assume that technology that came from the West were always the best, because sometimes they ended up, there were a problem with them. We also see, we recall vehicles. The best vehicles in the world can be recalled for a fault. The same with building technologies. We should recall bad technologies that fail. But we've, as a country and the world over, continued adopting systems that failed, and that's why we're getting our livers getting toxic, that water getting blackish water getting into the liver, because the treatment that happened in the residential areas was not good, it was not complete, and it ended up polluting our rivers.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Daniel Wanjoki, the CEO of EcoSave Africa. And if you are doubting that he knows what he's talking about, this is an award that they won. It's the EcoSafi Innovations Award, first position for outstanding innovation in the international category in 2019. So this is all about how we can ensure that we have sustainable solutions to pollution in our rivers and in various innovative ways. So on that green note, we're going to wind up Morning Express. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you tomorrow, same place, same time. My name is Trix Ingado. Have yourself an environmentally friendly day.
This is KTN News.